Oh, who am I kidding? I'm not scared. This is my closet. Hello friends, it's Sticks. Today we're going to be trying out a new marker set and I'm really excited to try them. This is the Illo HUE marker set by the same people who make the Illo sketchbook, which is my favorite sketchbook to use. So I'm really excited to see how these markers hold up, and they are brush markers, so that's even more exciting. So I think what we're going to do today is test these out on a small piece to get ready for Inktober. I'm doing Inktober this year and I'm nervous and excited, and I want to talk a little bit about what I'm doing to prepare. But first, let's check out these markers. So here's what the markers look like up close. It has a little indicator as to which side is the brush nib and which side is the chisel nib. They feel a little bit, let me grab another marker. Yeah, they're about the same size as the Copic markers. They probably actually hold a little bit more ink since they're square and the barrel is a bit larger. Which is good because I don't think they're refillable. Wow, they're a bit difficult to open. So here is what the chisel nib looks like. And here's the brush nib. To be honest, the brush nib looks really small. If you take that Copic again and compare the two, you can see, there you go, you can see that the Copic has a much larger brush. Like, wow, that's a huge difference. I'm curious to see what this means for drawing with it. So, that said, let's try drawing with it. Okay, so since these are Illo markers, I thought it would be a good idea to test them in my Illo sketchbook. Okay, here we go. I'm just going to take a ballpoint pen and draw a couple boxes. I just want to see what it feels like to use these brushes. So let's start off with the brush nib. Whoa. It is a lot more flexible than I expected it to be. Wow. So I can see that there's a bit of streaking going on. So I'm going to try and cover it with a second coat and see if that fixes that problem. And it seems to have fixed that right up. It does ghost through very badly, but it does not bleed through onto the next page, so that's fine. And now I want to try the chisel nib. And with two coats, that seems to work just fine also. I gotta say, I'm surprised with the flexibility of this brush nib. I don't know if you can see, but when I push it down, the whole thing starts to bend. Let me see how thin of a line I can get with it. If you go very lightly, you can get a variety. And even going fast, it has nice coverage. Oh, now it's starting to go through onto the next page over here. Now, just a disclaimer, you probably already know this, but Illo sketchbooks are not meant to take marker. They actually do fairly well at it as far as blending goes and everything, but they're not made to safely take it. So I'm just playing around right now. I think what I'll do is go ahead and swatch these and then draw something with them. Okay, I've got all the markers swatched out. it's time to actually use them on something. So as you can see, I did a blending test here, and they blended really well, but they did kind of bleed the pen ink, and I was just using a regular ballpoint pen. So I tested over here. This was ballpoint pen, this was my fine liner, and this was one of my Tombow plastic nib brush pens. So it did fine on the liner, luckily, because that's what I use most often for my artwork. So yeah, we're going to go ahead and test this out. I was quite surprised that there were some really nice lighter colors included with this set, because typically you don't get very many lighter colors in a cheaper, smaller set like this. These markers aren't the cheapest, but they're also not the most expensive, so they're kind of in the middle. But yeah, it's time to try them out, and I'm actually prepared with some line work. So I am going to attempt to do Inktober this year, and I'm a little bit worried about being able to complete it, but I've tried to set myself up for success. So one of the things I'm doing is I'm using a limited color palette, and it's just going to be the liner plus grays and oranges. And since there are so many good grays included in this Illo marker set, I thought they would be perfect. And then I can also use this lighter orange that I like over here, and then maybe the darker one. So the first thing I'm going to do is go ahead and put in the lightest gray just as shading where I want the shade to be. So we're going to start with that. My plan for this illustration, which is the cover, by the way, of my little Inktober sketchbook, is to have these letters be kind of a gradient from dark gray to light gray. And then the orange will be in the pumpkin. I got this little sketchbook a long time ago at one of my jobs, and I don't really know what kind of paper is in it or anything, but the small size is one of the ways that I am restricting myself for this challenge, so that hopefully I can be successful in finishing Inktober. As I mentioned, this is the first time I'm doing it, and so I have set for myself a few restrictions so that I don't get, hopefully, too overwhelmed. So the small size of the sketchbook is one of them. I mentioned the limited color palette. I'm not going to do any thumbnailing. I'm just going to go for it with each one, the first thing I think of. And I'm going to allow myself to choose from several different prompt lists to find the right prompt for each day. Okay, now for the pumpkin, I do feel like I need to work a little quickly because I want to be able to blend the gray out a little bit with this orange. So I'm going to go ahead and lay the orange down on top. And it just blends right away. Wow, that's great. So far they're laying down pretty smoothly, and I'm not having too much trouble with overlapping, as long as I just make sure I give everything kind of enough coverage. There's not too much streaking going on. Okay, now that I have those two colors blended in a little bit and I don't have to worry about it drying, I'm going to go ahead and go back to the grays. So I've got all three of my warm grays here, and I want them to be moving from dark down below up to the lighter gray. Oops, I missed a part of my pumpkin there. Let's fix that. So I already have my lighter gray down. I'm gonna start with the dark and move to the medium, and then use the light gray over everything to try and blend it all together. All right, we're gonna come up to about here, then to about here, and that just pretty much blended effortlessly. Yeah, that worked great. Moving on. As you can see, this is pretty effortless when it comes to blending these into each other, so that's awesome. And one to go. Okay, now I'm not sure whether I want to color the inside of the jack-o'-lantern dark or leave it white and have it be the brightest part of this illustration. I kind of like the idea of leaving it white and then coming in with the darker orange kind of around the outside edges to show that it's glowing. So for that I would use the terracotta. One thing about these markers that's interesting is that they don't have any indication of what color they are on the barrel itself. So if you are the kind of person to remove both tips, you wouldn't know which marker this was. I'm not that type of person. I typically have at least one barrel on because I don't like the idea of the air getting to the other side that I'm not using right then. But yeah, that's just something to keep in mind if you are looking to get these markers and you are that type of person. But yes, we're gonna go ahead and start this. So as far as my posting plans for this Inktober challenge go, I waffled a little bit on whether I should post like weekly updates or if I should try and post videos daily. And I think it'd be really fun to try and do a daily post just because it's not something that I have ever tried before. And I was kind of thinking about maybe trying to do Vlogmas over on my vlog channel. So I thought this would be good practice for that and also would keep me motivated to do these artworks every day like I'm supposed to. However, I will probably have to do some ahead of time just because my family and I are going to be out of town for vacation towards the end of October. So I'll have to have those ready to be scheduled before we go. I'm not sure yet if I'll have enough time to do other art videos in between all of these Inktober ones. If I do, I'll certainly post those. But yeah, for October, Inktober is going to be my focus as I try to accomplish this challenge. So being not as close in value, this dark orange and this lighter one, they don't blend as easily, and it works better if you blend them right away. So as soon as you get done putting the dark one on in one little spot, go back with the lighter one and just quickly blend them in. And that's gonna work the best. It definitely takes a lot of going over these two colors to get them to blend. Okay, so I have left the inside white, but because it's the same color as the background, it feels like it's unfinished to me. I think if the background could be black, I wouldn't mind it so much. And I guess I could kind of trace around everything and make the background black and leave a stroke around the letters. But I feel like that would be difficult. And then the 2019, well, I guess it could have a stroke too. I'm undecided. I also don't really have a black. This set doesn't come with one. It comes with dark grays, but no blacks. So if I was going to color this entire thing black, I would need to use a different pen, and I don't have one handy at the moment. So I think what I'm going to do is color the inside of the mouth instead. Well, the inside of the pumpkin, I guess. I really want to show how dark it is in here, so I am layering it up. And these are very small areas, but I don't seem to be having much trouble staying mostly in the lines with these markers, so that's a good thing. Okay, and now since this is dark inside, I think I need to go in with the dark orange also and do the lip of the carved jack-o'-lantern. I really like the square shape of these markers. It makes them very easy to hold and they don't roll at all. That's nice. And I think I might even go over that with one of the grays to make it darker. Ooh, I like that. That's definitely spookier than it was when that was white. So yeah, I prefer that. So one thing I've noticed with these markers is that sometimes when you open them, they do spray little dots of ink, so that's something to be careful of. It did it a bit here, you can see on my sketchbook. So definitely watch out for that. All in all though, they color very nicely and they blend well, and they're nice to use. I like that the nibs are a bit softer than the Ohuhu nibs, which is another beginner marker set. And also the Studio 71 nibs that I have are a little bit firmer. And I personally feel it's easier to blend when the nibs are softer, like these or like Copics. I've decided I do want to color the background black after all. It just seemed to be too empty otherwise. So I got my Tombow black brush marker and that's what I'll be using for the background, and I'm using the felt tip to go around the edge of the illustration, and then I'll use the brush tip to fill in the rest. So my overall opinion on the Illo HUE brush markers. This set has 36 colors and it came with an Illo sketchbook in a bundle for $60. But you can also get the set by itself for $55. So that makes them about $1.53 USD per marker. If you compare that with Ohuhu's brush markers, they sell 48 sets for $35 US, so that comes out to about 73 cents a marker. So it's a much better deal. Not only that, I just saw on their website that they will be adding a 72 set of brush markers to their site sometime soon. They also mentioned there would be more pastel colors included with that, so Ohuhu does a really good job of listening to its customers, because that's something that almost every reviewer said, was that there weren't enough lighter colors in their 48 color set. So I would probably recommend to go with Ohuhu over these Illo HUE markers, just because the value for the money is better, especially since neither one of them are refillable, but one has cheaper markers and more colors to choose from. I did find myself a little bit limited when I was trying to think of normal illustration, like if I was going to color a person with these Illo HUE markers. There weren't very many skin tones that would blend nicely into each other to get a nice shading level, base color, and a medium color. They were just too different from each other. And that is one of the things to keep in mind with markers. I love using alcohol markers, but in order to get those good gradients, you do really need to have a wide variety of colors in your arsenal, and you need to have several different shades of that same color in order to blend them into each other seamlessly. That's especially hard with smaller variety sets like these Illo HUE markers. That said though, the markers really did work beautifully, and the ones that were the right shades to blend really blended very well. Those grays just kind of melted together, so they do a great job, and I love the brush nibs because they're nice and flexible, which makes it easier to blend. That's something that they do beat Ohuhu on. And these are a new product for Illo, so in the future they might offer bigger sets with more colors, so that's exciting to look forward to. This is the part I was worried about, is getting around all these little lines of the title. I think it'll look good when it's done, but right now it just looks like a mess. I'm hoping to use my Posca paint pen to help clean up around the edges, because this Tombow pen is not very thin and it can't get into the little corners it needs to. So I want to go back and correct it with my white paint pen. I apologize for all the turning of the paper that I'm doing, but it just really helps me to be more accurate. Are you going to be doing Inktober? If so, have you put any restrictions on it to try and make it easier for you to complete? I am nervous about it because it's my first time, so I'm considering whether I should leave a white border around this. I'm kind of liking the way it looks, so I think I will. And I don't want it to be perfect because it's Inktober and it's meant for practice, especially with brush pens and ink, and so I am going to practice. I'm definitely preferring this look, so I'm glad I decided to do the black background. Now I'm wishing I had thought of this to begin with and then used my white Posca pen to do the Inktober letters just on top of the black and the pumpkin. That would have looked really nice. I'm not sure if it's too late for that because I already have the black going over here and I'd have to line it up exactly, and I don't know that I could do that. Okay, there's what it looks like with the black. I really like it. I'm definitely going to try to fix it up a little bit with the neatness up here with my Posca pen, just to make this stroke a little more even. But other than that, really happy with this. Love how the markers worked. Yeah, in general, I'm happy. So guys, what did you think of the finished piece? I had a lot of fun making it and I really enjoyed the markers, and I'm looking forward to using them during this year's Inktober. Thanks for being here and watching my video. If you liked it and you'd like to follow my Inktober journey, please click subscribe and I will see you in the next one. Bye everyone.